You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
It's a Tuesday night here in New York. It's probably a Tuesday night wherever the hell you are. And play no outs. Okay, listen, this is a rough time of year for me when it comes to, there's a little bit of playoff baseball going on right now with the Yankees on. And I try so hard. I keep it under control. I really don't bother you with it during the season. This gets me really on edge, especially since I'm only getting updates in text every once in a while. So there's a lot going on over here. I'll be juggling tonight, but we've got great guests. We've got Grace, and when I say guests, I mean two. That means Cheryl Daley. She is an author, and she is also the host of the How to Homeschool podcast. And then we have Barbie Rivera, who is an author and also a homeschooler. She runs a micro school in, I think, the Miami area, something like that. I forget. I think the Dade area down in Florida. She was on the air not too long ago, and I've had such a great time with both of these ladies on the show before. I said, you know what? This is since it's the 30th of September, and we're essentially knocking on the door of October. It is officially the end of back to school season, because can't say it's still back to school in October. September is back to school. Well, August for some of you Southerners. But still, I can't wait to talk with them, because there are so many great things I see going on, interesting things going on there too, that I would like to bring up that I've seen over the last month. And I just thought that they would make for a really great panel in the first half of tonight's show. And then in the second half of the show, we are going to, what do I got here? Oh, I got a little bit, because today is also the last day that AOL suspends its dial-up services. So that's it. Ever since from the early to mid 90s to right now, it's all done. So I'm going to leave the lines open, not only for comment on whatever we talk about tonight, but also those earliest internet memories that you guys have. AOL memories, dial-up memories, whatever you want to call them. You can call in on that in a little bit. There's other things going on around the news today. Nothing too crazy, but there was a lot of people commenting on what's going on with the with all of the military standards that are raising under Secretary Hegseth. You know, from appearance to beard and hair to how physically fit everybody is, from your new enlistee to the newly enlisted, all the way up to unimpressed generals. The generals, the Mark Milley types that look like packed sausages in their uniforms. So they don't want no more stuffed sausage generals in the army anymore. And good, whatever. It's a very very exclusive group there. I don't know why anybody would want to uplift people. I heard one of the ladies from the View, like, I don't know how any of this is uplifting. I don't know how any of this is uplifting at all. What do you want to do? This is supposed to be a lethal fighting force that's supposed to kill people and destroy things. when warranted. Now, the issue that we have is that there's really nothing warranted. There has not, for a long time, there has not been a constitutionally warranted reason for deploying our military for a very long time. But other than that, some people think that this is just yet another institution that we can use to balance out not only being able to drop a bomb onto a wedding party somewhere in Afghanistan from time to time and Syria, but also to make sure that we can uplift cross-dressers and anybody else that's doughy and out of shape and wants to feel like they are a G.I. Joe as well. It's just so stupid. But this gets into everything. It's actually all connected to education. It's controlled and influenced by the same people. What they want to put into the heads of young American school kids, all from the time that they're in diapers until they are graduating college. It's all the same thing. It's all the tinkering, meddling nonsense like that there too. We also have some other stuff here we can do. Well, I'll keep the YouTube questions for the second half as well, right after we talk about AOL. But here's the other thing. I have the media. You want to know another example of just really bad education and where this kind of education leads us, and whether or not some people are just out there being deceptive, and whether or not they themselves are just very stupid and they have taken the whole thing. I have two clips from you. The first one is a little bit of a health lesson from one Jamal Bowman. He used to be my representative to the House. He represented my interests in the House of Representatives. That's it. He went there every day thinking about what Frank needs. Of course, he spent his time just blathering on like an idiot and pulling the fire alarm to make sure that he can interrupt congressional proceedings. So here is a little bit from Professor Jamal Fire Alarm Bowman. Wants to talk about why certain health conditions for black people are just so hard to overcome. Here we go.
Catholic pro-life ministries bombed.
We are not dealing with America's original sin and its disease of hate and racism towards black and brown people and sexism towards women and anti-LGBTQ sentiment. We are not dealing with that. Your colleagues in the Republican Party do not hold each other accountable when it comes to the racism that comes from the party on a consistent basis.
Congressman, I mean, where are you on
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease...
I'm white, I can't comment
Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease and cancer and obesity and diabetes are bigger in the black community is because of the stress we carry from having to deal with being called the N-word.
We've got diabetes, we've got heart disease, cancer, and it's so much worse because of the N-word. The damn N-word. This is pathetic. This is pathetic. What a freak. You bulgy-faced freak. I can see your A1C rising. Oh my gosh. Good golly. Oh man, don't you ever think that you are less capable, less intelligent than your average congressman. Don't you ever think that about yourself, kids. Ever. This is such a stupid man. This is a stupid man. I believe that he believes it. I believe he believes this. There are people out there who are cunning. They're ruthless, they're cunning, and they understand how impressionable and ignorant people that they're speaking to are. And they will say things to be able to keep them in a suggestible state and to get them to do and to modify their behavior and to influence them in one direction or another. They will do that knowing that what they're talking about is an exaggeration or bullshit or what. And then there are just stupid people. Like he's on the wavelength. He's on the wavelength. Can you imagine that? But again, this goes hand in hand with what we have in our schools. No doubt about it. There are idiots teaching your children and looking over your school district who probably sat at home and watched this and went, okay? The crows. The murder of crows. Here's another one for you. Just so stupid. It's just incredible. Can't believe what you hear sometimes.
Catholic
pro-life.
Wait, hold on.
N-word, directly or indirectly every day. If you're
indirect, that's the other thing there too. I have cancer because of the indirect use of the N-word. Damn you indirect users of the N-word. I know you all want to say it. I know you want to say it. And therefore cancer. Clown. What a clown. He peaked when he pulled that fire alarm. He peaked. Should I listen to him one more time? No, I can't. I can't do this. 5 more seconds.
Colleagues would listen and try to...
I can't do it. What a fucking moron. What a moron, they say. Now, we're going on to another moron. Joy Reid. Joy Reid wants to let's see here. She wants to warn everybody about the fascist agenda. The agenda that she sees that is rising right now. I don't know who she's on with the talk. What is that? Talk something? I don't know. It's just another show that only idiots watch. It's an 18-second clip, but it doesn't get much deeper than this. Here you go. Listen to this.
Is that if you go back before the 20th century, there were no income taxes, there were no regulations on business. You could earn as much money as you want, leave 100% of it to your children with no taxes. Right. That's the world they want back. And to get it back, they need society to change. They need people to be less modern. They need people to want fewer things.
Okay. I'm glad you heard that. So the fascist agenda, first of all, if that's the fascist agenda, I am telling you right now proudly, I am a fascist. And I want fascism more than any fascist has ever wanted anything in their lives. If that's what. And you know what? Everybody else should want fascism as well. Because what this stupid creature is putting out there is, again, another inverse. Okay? It's sort of a spell. It's sort of a spell. They create this sophisticated kind of R&B lounge, cocktail lounge kind of environment. You think you're listening to two intellectuals going at it and just kind of parsing up what the world is about, but they are mongrels. Okay? Now, let me just say that there's a lot of, like I said, again, purposely deceptive people out there in the media. Doesn't take that much to move the needle for ignorant people. They know that. But I think Joy is, again, one of the really stupid ones. Now, the theft of your earnings by the federal government, that's what we're talking about here. Fewer regulations. They want no income tax. Yeah, I don't want that. I don't want my income to be stolen by a government that has no authority to take it. Not on the federal level. Fewer regulations on how you run your business. Mind you, this is all empowering to the individual, not empowering to the government and its relationship. Its relationship with business, with big corporations, which is what fascism is. Which is why when the left was screaming at Trump to get in and tell businesses to produce more masks and to produce more this and that and all that stuff, and whatever he was doing, like, he's not doing enough. It's like, you understand what you're asking is fascism? Did too much. So she's rattling off all these things that would help anybody, black, white, man, woman, child, all these principles that would help anybody and would improve the lot of all of us over time if we stuck to them. And she's calling them fascistic. So you earn what you work for. And God forbid you can pass it on to your family. You can create generational wealth. That's freedom. That's independence. Now, to get freedom back, the fascists, this is what she said at the end. Now, listen. This is the big one right here.
Taxes, that's the world they want back. And to get it back, they need society to change. They need people to be less modern. They need people to want fewer things. In
order to get freedom back, Okay, that's freedom and independence back. That's the truth there. We're fascist, and the fascists need society to be less modern. I don't know what the hell that means. What's the benefit in that at all? How would taking more responsibility away from central planners and putting it into the hands of individuals, people who actually innovate, who actually create jobs? Government doesn't create jobs. People do. Government regulates. They can either put their foot on the throat or take the foot off the throat, so that the only people who can create them opportunities, innovation, whatever the hell else, they can go and do their thing. All right? So I don't know what the benefit of that is. Who's going to build the roads? We're going to get down to roads again. And then the kicker, we need to have people want fewer things. Now, I thought wanting things was fascism, though. You were just talking about people who have a job, who have a family, who have a little piece of property that's been in their family for a couple of generations that they want to keep there. I thought all of these little pursuits, these little things that people have throughout their lives, I thought that those things were fascistic. I thought that was bad. Having and wanting was a bad thing, but I get it. Wanting things is fine when it's coming from what has been stolen from someone who did the work for it. That's where this little animal over here is coming from. And that message it's essentially a pablum kind of message. It is very easily digested by people out there, and it just goes out there. So you see how this entire thing is an inversion? This is what generations now have already received in an American school system. The inverted worldview that you get in American schools, where liberty is tyranny, and vice versa. So I mean, so according to Joy Reid over here, in order for a person to keep more of what they earn, other people need to be trained to want fewer things, because their needs are only met when independent people are stolen from. And that's crazy. And this is what makes the college campus debate scene all the more sad. You have these children who are just completely cognitively mangled, and they're demanding their own slavery. At the same time, they're often citing ancient examples of slavery to justify modern slavery. You can't reason with that. And, and when you talk about real education, which our guests that are coming on right now are going to be able to discuss, that's why one of the more important things is trying to teach logical progressions to children that can become functional adults, that don't become Joy Reid. And it's never been more evident in society than right now. It's always been there, but there's been such a push. There's been no pushback in a significant way, no challenging the orthodoxy, especially in education. But that's not the case anymore. People are pushing back. They're looking for alternatives. And because of that, the animals are getting just outright crazed. Well, welcome to September night, the final September night. That means that back to school season is gone tomorrow. And I want to welcome on two friends of the show tonight right now. Cheryl Daley, she's the author. She's an author and host of the Homeschool How-To podcast. And hello. Barbie, hey, what's going on? Cheryl, you there?
I am.
It's so good to have you on. And
thank you.
Joining you, and I think you guys are friends. I don't know why you wouldn't be, because you're we have Barbie Rivera is also back. And Barbie, as you know, author and also a 30-year homeschooler, micro school teacher. Thank you both for being here so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, what's the news in your respective neck of the woods? We got Cheryl, that's upstate in New York. Barbie, you're down in Miami. What's your attendance like this year?
My attendance, I'm about 40 kids in my school.
Wow.
Which I would like to get about 10 more.
Wow.
Which would really be my max for where I'm at. I mean, ultimately, I want to get a building and double that figure.
That's fantastic. And now, Cheryl, this is something where you and I, we've got a lot of things going on in New York that I think is really interesting. We don't see people like Barbie operating up here, where there's 40 looking to get 50 people into a privately owned building and getting around, but it's starting to happen. There are micro schools that are popping up. People are inquiring a lot about it, and it's mainly because voices like both of you, your voices are getting out there, and it's really making people wonder what their options can be.
Yeah, absolutely. We have up in New York so many micro schools popping up, and it's so cool because there's different ones like where there's a drop-off program. So if parents have to work, they can still do that. And, some might think, well, how is that different than a private school? But private schools still get funding from the government, so they still have to abide by all the same rules. I mean, look back at COVID, they all had to mask. So, this is now, it actually, functions differently. Some of them, the parents do stay. Some of them, the parents are actually the teachers. So there's all different things popping up. Like you said, I know you found one for your daughter where you guys live, just a couple hours south of me, but it's really cool. And you kind of just have to learn the language and how you file things to know what you're legally allowed to do in your state.
Yeah. So Barbie, when you hear about this, because of course you're so much farther down the line, we're just kind of like fledgling up here in the Northeast, and we have a little bit more going against us. What would you say to people who are in areas like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Massachusetts that have a little bit more restriction on this stuff, or maybe the culture is not there yet? What's the best thing to do?
Well, I'm going to tell you, even in Florida is very homeschool, micro school friendly. And I love my private school, but in many ways, when I micro schooled, that was the best situation. And it was rough, and I felt like I was the only person in the room often. But you persist, and to me, the best micro school is when the person running it has a child that's in the school. Because if you're really dedicated to correctly educating the child, then that micro school is going to survive. Like I had no other choice but to make it survive. And I don't want that to sound like I was oppressed in the micro schooling or anything like that, but I think micro schooling is the way to go. I think that if you have a 5-year-old, a 6-year-old, or a 7-year-old, you get 6 other kids the same age, and you then have control, and you have you can plan what you want to incorporate. And then for me, there's so many things other than reading, writing, and math that are valid forms of learning. Like you can get the kids into sculpting, you can get them into, I don't know, building canals in the backyard with a hose and water. And all of these things are amazing, but it really can only be done in a micro school, homeschool setting. Because like even in a private school, I'm in a shopping center, so that has its own challenge. If I had my own campus, I'm gonna go back to that, because in Florida, believe it or not, in Florida, the main emphasis is on the building codes. Mm-hmm. It really isn't even much about the education, which I find shocking, but that's how it is.
I can see that. I up here now, Cheryl, we and Barbie as well. But yeah, there's a new school, a micro school, and there's only about 7 other children too that my daughter's in with, and it's been incredible the last few weeks watching it all happen. It's Montessori as well, so to see what is being used, and we're going to get around to Montessori because I think it's interesting that that Mark Zuckerberg news from about a month ago. I want to talk about that with you guys, but it's really interesting to watch all this come together, and I'm really excited about it. What I want to ask you is this: a lot of people who aren't typical homeschoolers who they've tried it in recent years. They're starting to do it a lot more. My producer, Krista, who was telling me how she had seen, and I noticed it too, an uptick in YouTubers, these mom vloggers who are really going headfirst into the homeschooling with skyrocketing viewership and engagement. Mm-hmm. I mean, in your opinion, do you guys see this as a trend that's going to like ebb and flow, or is this finally the sign of a permanent culture shift?
Well, I think people are realizing the truth that the education system was created by people like the Rockefellers. They wanted to create obedient workers, people that would do the job, smart enough to do the job, but not too smart to question it. They definitely didn't want competitors to their oil industry and everything else they were working on. So why were they investing millions of dollars, billions, probably the equivalent to today? Why would they invest that all into the school system? Did they really want people that would just come out and have these booming entrepreneurial businesses that were successful? No, obviously they're not going to want that. So it makes sense. And, when you go back even further, the history of it came from Prussia. They wanted a nation of obedience. And that's where we get the model that we see today. So I think we kind of live in this era of truth. Everyone is uncovering everything. We're actually in an era. I find more people around me that don't trust the government or anything the government has to say or the news media has to say than I find people that are agreeing upon what they hear in the media. So I don't think it's a trend. I think it's that we are going to see education take a whole new shift in our children's lifetime. I don't think college, when your daughter and my kids are 18, I don't think it's going to be standard to spend $200,000 on a college education. I think you're going to see very few people doing that. It's kind of like the jig is up. We realize there are other ways that we can learn this stuff. And the same thing with homeschooling. It's like the biggest complaint is people say, oh, I can't do it because I work. And Barbie, you had the best, fix to that when you were on my podcast. You said, well, I had to work. I was a single mom, so I started the school. And I made what I made at my old job. So I think people are going to get wise to this and realize, yeah, I can make money doing something else other than sitting in a cubicle. So I think it's here to stay.
I agree.
Anything you want to add? Add whatever you like, unless you agree wholeheartedly.
Well, I agree wholeheartedly because, I think that I'll take this outside of education. Like I saw an article like women are now aging gracefully instead of all of this fish face or whatever, right? And they go through that era, then they realize it was wrong. And I have no shame in saying that I raised my children and I was with them all the time. I enjoyed it and it shows. You can tell. When my children were young, they were well behaved. They would go to your house. They're not going to tear anything up. And I'm not going to justify it. Oh, he's just curious while he's, taking a plant apart. I'm like, no, they knew not to do that because they couldn't do that with me. And I think that I don't know, women, I can't speak for everyone, are coming back to it's okay to stay home with your kids. And it's okay. Ideally, I would have had 8. I say this almost on every podcast. Ideally, I would have had the support of a husband. I say that on almost every podcast. I didn't. So what? But I made it happen with what I had. And in many ways, my personal household with 11 kids that I was microschooling, and then they would spend the night on the weekends, my household was more peaceful full of kids than it was with just my own 4. Because my children would not throw a tantrum in front of their friends. They would be embarrassed to do so. And so they were like, oh, well, now it's time to eat. We all help cook. Now it's time to clean up the dishes. And now we're going to make a tent out of the dining room table. And I'm like, this is lovely.
It is.
And I think more people want that experience because they're tired of what they see.
Well, let's talk about that as well, what people are seeing. Because at some point in this conversation, I want to talk about those parents out there, whether they're single parents, single father, single mother, or 2 parents, where every adult in the house needs to be at a job because they have to make ends meet, and that job just won't allow them to do it at home because there are a lot of people out there, a lot of adults, a lot of parents who, especially over the last 5 years, there is a huge increase in people who work from home. Ever since the COVID lockdowns and stuff like that, a lot of companies have just really adopted remote work because it saves a lot of money with overhead, with office buildings and all that stuff. So there are a lot of parents who are home and they realize, you know what, I'm already home. Then somebody tells them that homeschooling is really only about 2 hours of work a day. So it's not like it's not the 8 hours of babysitting that we all remember school being when we were growing up. So there are people who are just saying to hell with it, I'm already home, and there's more people at home, but there are those who aren't. And I want to talk about that in a second. But as far as inspiration goes, what have you guys in all of your homeschool circles or over the years and just knowing parents and their motivations for looking for alternate ways of getting their children a good education and getting them ready for adulthood, what are the most frequent things that you hear about? Is it because right now we know public schools and some private are like minimum security prisons, as James Howard Kunstler said. There's these trauma drills to prepare children for violence at any moment. Of course, there's all the social engineering stuff. So I just wonder, what motivations do you guys always hear from people, especially the kind of odd ones too? I want to hear those.
Well, I mean, just letting your kids sleep in the morning does so much for them. Like when we think about getting jolted awake at 5 a.m., if your kid is going through a growth spurt or they have, synapses in their brains that are trying to make connections at that time, and when we're shaking them awake, or they have, a germ or bacteria, their body's trying to fight something, and we're just ripping them out of bed in this chaotic manner every morning, 5 days a week. Hurry up, get up, you got to get out, and you're stressed because you have to get them there. And just starting every day that way, I mean, think about how much like damage that does. I mean, that's how I grew up. It was awful.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything different, so I never knew to question it. And I sent my son to daycare, and we did that whole thing for years. And it wasn't until, COVID and they started masking kids in daycare that I was like, all right, we got to change something. And then this peace came over the mornings. It was like, whoa, you can just sleep and then wake up when you're actually ready. And, the food in the school too. Now, most schools offer free free breakfast and lunch because they don't want to discriminate against, the kids that need it. So everybody gets it. And what are they putting in that food? There's all sorts of dyes and chemicals. And so the sugars, they're just feeding all of these toxic things to our kids and then telling them to sit still for 6 hours. And, when they get out for recess, it's like, you got to stand in a line, or you can only go there. By the time you get out, it's time to come right back in. So they're not even able to get any sort of energy out. And then we wonder why so many kids are on medications, because they cannot sit still. They cannot pay attention. I think it's just a snowball effect of so many things that are wrong with the way that is to live. And I did it. It's not like I'm saying, oh, I have always known this is so much nicer, because you don't know it until you're in it and you're doing it. And I do have hard days with my kids. There's a lot of times I tell them, like, I've said to my son, are you trying to kill me? Is this what you're trying to do? And, he's like, no, Mom, there are easier ways to kill you. Don't worry. But, it's not easy, but it's fulfilling, where sitting in a cubicle making 6 figures was not fulfilling. So it's like, you have to think about yourself too, and what you want out of your life when you're sitting there on your deathbed and you're looking back at it. You're never going to say, I wish I spent less time with the kids.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, but Barbie, what about you? And you guys can also, Cheryl, feel free to add anything else in there whenever you think about it. I saw your little skit on your Instagram about the different days of the week and all of the groups you meet with, and it almost seemed like I was wondering which group would I fall into, because it seemed like every day of the week they have more motivations for being out there. Like this group is skeptical of the government of, this way. This group is skeptical of one thing or another. That's why I've been wondering about people's motivations, because it just is, at the very least, it is another example of how anybody that tries to plan as a central authority for an entire nation and assuming perfect knowledge over what people want and why they do things is just ridiculous, because there's so many motivations for a family unit or an individual to want to or not want to be a part of something. And it's crazy to mandate things as important as this.
Yes, agreed. I'll tell you the one thing that I run into that is, I don't know how to even say it. It's beyond frustrating, is I run into people that totally trust the system. They say, oh, but my son gets straight A's. And I'm like, you're not listening to me. I don't care about the A. Can they do something with that A? Because I guarantee you, and I said this today, I was speaking to a gentleman who came by my school. I'm like, in 34 years, like my favorite thing to teach, or I'm a middle school teacher now at my school, but I also like to tutor that. And I go, in 34 years, every 5th, 6th, and 7th grader that's come to me, the parents are like, oh no, they don't understand fractions. 34 years, no one's been able to give me the definition of the word. Like, it doesn't even occur to them. But the parents happy they have an A. And I'm like, but they have an A, but they can't add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Well, they're on a grading curve. I'm like, and that is ridiculous. Like, if you go to a restaurant and you order what you order, you want what you order. You don't want a curve of what you ordered. And isn't that what education is supposed to deliver? Because everybody, I mean, I see this, in my micro world of my 4 children, there's something similar about all of them, but then they're vastly different. They have vastly different responses. One likes scary movies, one doesn't like scary movies. This one is quick. My daughter, I have one girl, when she was 4, I think she finished kindergarten in 8 weeks. But she was like a little perfectionist. She wanted her handwriting perfect, and she worked on it, and it was good. And man, she would criticize her older brother's handwriting. It's like, that's not an A, that looks like a broken balloon. And I'm like, okay, Morgan, like, let's bring it back a little bit. But she was very motivated, and she knew what she wanted to do with what she learned. She wanted to bake more. She wanted to cook more. She wanted to be able to read a recipe. She wanted to do things, which it wasn't about a test. I could care less about a test. Like, that wasn't the focus. And then when you drop information into a child's lap and you let them pursue or make a connection, that's just wonderful.
Yeah.
Because then you end up on a journey that you might not have ever traveled had it not been for the interest of a person that you gave birth to. Like my 3rd child, very much into animals. And twice before he was 5, wild birds landed on his shoulder. Like, just flying around, they land on his shoulder. And I'm like, all right, you can't teach that. That's a gift. So I contact all the aunts, uncles, the abuelos, the abuelas. I'm like, okay, Adam, I'm building a library for Adam. And by the time he was 10, he read probably 250 animal books. And he participated in rescuing an animal. And he has black widow spiders at the Miami Museum of Science. It's like he put that information to use. He was not crammed down his throat. Okay, you have to read this many pages. You have to do this. I saw him doing it. He was happily absorbing the information he wanted. And he's brilliant, like really intelligent, because he wasn't ruined when he was 6, 7, and 8, which I think are probably one of the most important time periods for the learning experience, is when they're young.
I'm starting to see it myself right now, just with just with all the just with the tools that are in a classroom that's following along, especially the Montessori type of thing. I'm seeing things that I thought were just baby toys. And then I realized, these are tools to visualize quantity and to visualize. I mean, it was crazy to see things, because everything was just memorization. And you need good memory, and memorization comes in. But it's really interesting to see how a child can be allowed to just plot their own course in something. And let me get around for both of you guys something real quick here too. Just getting back to what I said about whether or not you think it's a trend, or whether we are really at a watershed moment where a culture is starting to shift. Here are things, I see things like this popping up all the time now. This is from Fox. This was I don't know, about a month ago now, early on in the month. Headline is New Jersey homeschool families fight back as state tries to mandate DEI teachings in their homes. Here's so essentially what they're trying to do is they're so over the top. They're just nuts, absolutely nuts that they're trying in some places like New Jersey to write and pass bills that would force homeschool parents to submit, as they say over here, a curriculum that's in line with state learning standards that includes subjects like gender identity, sexual orientation, and climate studies. It's like the reason why everybody was leaving. And this is what I'm saying. You know, when we in the 90s, if we heard a kid was getting homeschooled, they usually were a little odd because back then, anybody who was doing that was mostly just getting religiously cloistered. Everybody now is running for different reasons, running away from this for different reasons, because the people in charge of these institutions are nuts. What is Cheryl? Start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, the laws are getting nuts. They're almost throwing so much out there so that you can't keep track of it. And luckily there are organizations like hslda.org that is keeping up with all of these laws so that you can see what's coming down the pipeline in your state, and hopefully you have the time and wherewithal to fight it. But that's hard too. You know, we weren't educated in school on how to do that, how to call up your congressman or walk down to the Capitol or, you know, organize some sort of group letter for everybody to send and call. So it's hard. So every state, even in New Jersey, I just had a woman on my podcast last week who really follows these laws, and she's in New Jersey, and she said that they had literally no laws in New Jersey about what you have to submit for homeschooling. And it went from nothing to all of a sudden they want to mandate all these restrictions on homeschooling in New Jersey. So people get lax about it and they think they don't have to worry about anything because I'm not in New York and I'm not in California, but it's not true. They're almost putting it down the pipeline in places that you wouldn't expect. And I just want to piggyback on something Barbie said earlier, because she said her daughter was handwriting in kindergarten. And I wanted to be like, because I feel like some of the parents cringing like, oh, I don't want to handwrite with my 5-year-old. I just want to say, my son is 7. We're in technically 2nd grade, and he's never taken any sort of formal handwriting course yet. So it's like, that's the beauty of homeschooling too. Like I just know him as a boy. He's not going to sit. He's not going to do it. We're going to fight. So I don't do it. And you know what? He'll still end up okay in the end. Because when he's ready, when he has a need, he's going to do it. She had a girl do it at the time, and they learn very differently. And that's also the beauty of homeschooling, because you can lean on what their interests are, just like she was saying with, you know, her son and the birds. So that's another great reason to homeschool right there. You lean into kind of what their interests are.
Yeah, you lean into their interests, but you also have more of the time and space to address a need. And I'll tell you where, I have a great story about handwriting. I'm an artist. I painted that. You know, it's like I draw, I paint, and I've been doing it all my life. And my mother gave me, when I was 4, the best advice ever. Really, it was the best advice she'd ever given me. And a local architect in Cincinnati gave me a desk with a chalkboard, and it had the alphabet in yellow paint and the digits 0 to 9. And it had, you know, I thought, wow, this is great. It's a chalkboard. I can draw on it. I can wipe it down. Like I felt like I was a big girl. You know, I'm 4 years old and I have my own desk now. Anyway, my mother told me, she goes, Barbara, if you can form the letters and the numbers exactly as they are there, you can draw anything you want, because all it is controlling a line. And I was like, boom, that's all it is controlling a line. It doesn't have to be a chore. It doesn't have to be a whatever, but it's just a duplication. Like if I want a tree, if I draw a tree and I'm a really good artist, you're going to know what I drew.
Yeah.
And that mattered to me, that is that your father? No, it's a tree. You know, like I wanted to be at least good enough, even as a child, that what I'm communicating was duplicated. Anyway, so my daughter picked up on that as well. And thankfully, all my children were artistic. So they never, ever had an issue with the handwriting, but it also wasn't crammed down their throat. It was done very slowly and very thoroughly, and we use Play-Doh and we do all that stuff. But again, that comes back to your homeschooling protocol, so to speak, of like, this is what you can do, right? And to go back to what I think I said on both of your shows, was what I want to do is I want to create a base curriculum for homeschoolers that is based on the old books from 100 years ago.
Yeah.
When things were taught properly.
Yes.
And honestly, I homeschooled my children on 3 pages a day. Now, it wasn't just 3 pages. They would do 3 things of handwriting, which again, the lines are this big. Maybe they wrote 12 letters, but it was 3 pages and they felt accomplished. Then they would do math. We'd go out in the yard. We'd count something. We'd do this. We'd do that. It was very practical. Then that was done. And then we would practice our letters. And by doing it that way, they started like, okay, but what about this? Okay, what about this? And I remember my youngest son, I taught him, he started writing stories when he was 8. Now you can imagine these stories, they had 57 words that were misspelled. He had 1 punctuation mark on the whole thing, and none of that was corrected because it's the wrong time to correct. He's doing creative writing. He's writing me a story on his own time. It would be like if he gave me a picture of an alien with a cow on the moon. I'm not going to say, hey, there's no cows on the moon. You put it on the refrigerator and you celebrate it. So I had a little writer on my hands, and he would write these stories and stories. And when he was in the 4th grade, he was 9, I taught him how to use quotation marks. You would have thought I gave him $100. He was like, oh, this is going to make my story so much better. Had I introduced it earlier, he would have been shut down. It would have been a chore.
Yeah.
Had I overcorrected him, he would have been shut down. It would have been a chore. But when he gave me some picture, it's on the refrigerator. No matter how boyish, whatever it was on the refrigerator. When he wrote me a story, I would read it to the family, or I would read it to the homeschool group, and they all loved it because it was hilarious, even though it was choppy and it was written by an 8-year-old, but it was fantastic. And I'm so happy that I saved all of those things. And anyway, when he got to high school, at that time, I then had a small private school, and his essay writing and his poetry was beyond the norm. Like, I was like, this kid is deep, and he has a good vocabulary. And to me, that, again, that comes back from the early years of 3 pages a day. Let's do 3 pages. Now go play for half an hour. Now do this. Now let's go play. They had great toys such as tea, like my daughter had a tea set, not anything that talked to her, but a tea set that she could put water in and get her teddy bears around. And that was very beneficial to her. And the boys had their Legos. And anyway, it was like a great activity because they were allowed to create on something. It wasn't just force fed.
Yeah.
Which is what the school system is.
I have, I've seen that myself firsthand the last couple of weeks there too. I mean, there's a lot of things that I see the girls whenever, for these little glimpses that me and Lauren get when we show up to pick up and drop off Aurora. And we'll see how the girls they're doing things like they're doing dry pouring with, like kernels of corn kernels or something, instead of spilling things all over the place, just how to handle delicate objects, whatever the hell it is. Boys are driving, essentially like practicing how to drive nails into wood, but they're driving golf ball tees into pumpkins or something like that. I mean, there's so many things that you just, I'll tell you, it's nuts. We showed up one morning and they had like Baroque classical music playing. I was like, damn, nothing like. I think about the chaos that I walked into every morning, and it's just interesting to watch when there's a little bit less organization. You think it would be absolute chaos, but it's not, because you're not fighting too much. I want to do something now. I want to go over to Cheryl's Instagram, and then Cheryl, you can start, and then Barbie, you can finish. This is based on a story that happened that came out back in August, and I was going to grab the thing, but why grab the article when I have the video right here? This is when Mark Zuckerberg got in trouble in California, and I think where is it, Palo Alto or something like that, where he had a zoning issue or a certificate issue for actually having a micro school at his home, and he was doing Montessori, and people said this is pretty interesting. Now listen to this, and Cheryl, jump in whenever.
Okay, get this. We just found out some information about Mark Zuckerberg's children and where they go to school. Zuckerberg has been running a very small private school out of his home for his children and 12 other children. Now, apparently this is in violation of city code and blah, blah, blah. I don't care about that. What I care about is that the education that they're giving these children, Mark Zuckerberg's children, is a Montessori education. Montessori education does not include technology. So the founder and CEO of Meta doesn't use tech to teach his kids, yet he pushes Meta products and technology into our schools. Meta is selling their VR program to schools all across the country. Meta recently signed a pledge to America's youth, promising that they will be investing in AI education, helping our kids to use AI in school to learn, when he himself, Mr. Zuckerberg, does not do so. At least that's what it seems like. It's not surprising given that executives like Mark Zuckerberg don't allow their own children to use social media, the products that they create. But it reminds us that if the richest and one of the most well-connected men in the world is choosing, based on all of his research and access, to not educate his children through technology, then why are we?
Yes.
Okay.
There's your, and I thought that would be a great place to put this, especially since you said, nothing talking back to the children or anything like that. It's just all analog. And yeah, okay. So go ahead, ladies. I want to hear what you have to add on to that.
Well, and actually her page, she has so much on there. Her the woman who originally made that post, Scrolling to Death, is her profile name. But I mean, she has where she's in the classroom with her third grader, and she asks the teacher, I'm going to take the iPad that the third grader uses in class. I mean, that's crazy. I don't have a third grader in school, so I'm not even aware of this. But third graders are using iPads in class. So that mother took the laptop. She went on YouTube, which she was allowed to go on, which shouldn't even be something that kids can go on in the school. And the third thing she saw was something that was like pornographic, or was made to like get the child to hurt themselves in some way. So that's primarily what that woman does. She worked in the industry of like marketing, and then kind of in internet, social media kind of atmosphere, and then saw that this was coming down, the AI bots that are getting kids to hurt themselves. This stuff is beyond what we ever thought would happen in the school systems, no less than in our children's lifetime. But yes, I think the fact, my child does use some computer-based stuff because some things just explain it better. We kind of go back and forth on what we use, but it is something I'm there for. It is, you purchase the program versus just being able to go out on finding any sort of free curriculum and here, use this while I go do my work or go do the dishes or go outside, so there's different ways to go about it. But I think it says a lot when Mark Zuckerberg is not allowing his children to learn from the computers. And they have AI schools now. Actually, I had a different post where AI actually teaches your kid and they think this is wonderful. It's coming down the pipeline. I think Trump signed something into law about it too. I have to research that one more, where they're actually going to be pushing the AI in schools, and it's marketed as, well, this is going to help your child learn the way they individually need to learn, but everything comes at a price, right? They dangle the carrot, and then what are they really taking from you in the end? They're taking all of your child's their likes, their dislikes, so that they can market to them. That's really what all this is about, is making us all consumers, right? Because we're just going to keep working, grinding away, and keep spending our money on things like this to know more about us so that they can market to us more easily. So you kind of have to think of it in that way. And then, the whole AI bots attacking kids basically, and her page goes into more detail on it, kids that actually end up committing suicide because the AI bot tore them away from their parents and in this sort of thinking. And a few kids have actually committed suicide. There's court cases over it. So it's just, you can't trust what's behind this. And I think that's even more so the goal. I mean, yeah, you don't want your child looking at a screen and all that, but there's like a more sinister thing about it too.
Right. Yeah, it's beyond the tool. Barbie, any thoughts on that real quick? I have two more questions.
Well, yeah, in Miami there are schools that are they're private and public and charter, that the kids are on computers all day long and they don't ever converse with the teacher.
Well, what would you say? Oh, okay, there's the downside. You don't have any conversing with a teacher, somebody who's supposed to be running the classroom. But what would you say to somebody who says, well, it sounds like you guys are just very retrograde and scared of technology in general. What about using it responsibly?
No, I disagree completely.
Okay.
I disagree completely, because you have this concept that sneaks into society, like the computer. And I'm speaking specifically of a child that I know who is 17, who has made it to the 11th or 12th grade, who cannot function at a 5th grade level because she has mastered multiple choice. And I'm sorry, life isn't multiple choice. You need to have logic. And multiple choice should not even be offered on any platform. And I'm going to lose that fight big time, because that's all of the testing is multiple choice. Sometimes you have to write an essay, but now the AI can write the essay. In my school, if you use AI, you get suspended. If you use it again, you're out, because I want to know what you know. I don't want to know what a robot knows. I don't even want them correcting your grammar or spelling. I want to know what you know, raw, organic, because that I can deal with. The other stuff, why even bother? Because we're just going to let the child, like, we've just erased the imagination. That's where I go back to that teapot. And that's a real situation. I had my niece when she was this little girl. I'm like, oh, I'm going to get her a tea set like Morgan used to have. They didn't exist. They all had smiles on them, like weird smiles. And they all, thank you very much. Oh, I always say I'm welcome. I'm like, I don't want to, can't we just get a plastic teapot that the kid can fill up with water, and she manages the conversation she's having between herself and the teddy bear, and bring mom and dad? Like, can't we do that anymore? But it's not, because then the AI, it just takes that. Now the kid doesn't even have to think. And so when you have a high school or a middle school or even a lower school where the kid is in front of a screen all day long, and then they go home and they do 3 hours of homework all day long, we have lost society. Because to me, we now have zombies that can only think if there's a screen in front of them, and they're not even thinking. They think they're thinking, but they're not thinking. They're responding. And we can't, like, that's not, to go way earlier and maybe too broad. That's not how this country was founded. People had to solve big problems. It wasn't solved for them with a multiple choice. And in life, we've all, I don't know you personally, but I guarantee you, we've all had situations where we blew it. And we've had situations where we overcame things that we didn't think we could. And here we are standing. And we learned from it. We learned from when we blew it. We learned from when we made it go right. And that's part of the intelligence, right? And for me as a parent, as a single mom, I did not solve my children's problems for them. Oh, the ball rolled under the sofa? Figure it out. And I know that sounds harsh, but it's also not life or death. But I'm like, what can you do to figure it out? And by doing that, when they got to be teenagers and they wanted an electric guitar that was $900 that I couldn't afford, they always had a solution for it. They go, I've saved up 8. Can you kick in 1? That I can do. I'll do the dishes extra. I'll do this. There was always a solution instead of give it to me, give it to me, give it to me, give it to me. Which, again, I'm very happy with that fact. I find it very refreshing And again, that's the end product of the homeschooling, which you don't always see when you're in the middle of it, because it can be frustrating. And the dog throws up and the kid wants this and this one has a fever and this one has that, and you need to pay your rent and all of those things. But if you can back up what you're doing when you're homeschooling organically, not based on technology, and again, I mean 100%.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if you want to see a volcano, I've never seen one myself. I'll pull up a video of it. But it's not going to be sitting in front of a computer to let some robot explain what a volcano is. It's a tool.
Totally.
And that's all it should be, is a tool.
Totally. Yeah, it's when the tool starts becoming a member of the family is when you have an issue there.
Yes, well put.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you guys. I have two practical questions I want to throw at you before we wrap up here tonight, and we get all of your broadcast schedules and your books and your websites. I have you both linked in the descriptions, both BarbieRivera.com and CherylDaley.com. It's all in the description of the episode. But two real quick practical questions. Number one, we'll start with this because Barbie just brought up the whole idea of a child who is in school. They come home and they got 3 hours of homework. It's like the day, it doesn't just go from 7:30 to about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's then going until 6 o'clock, maybe beyond that. Maybe you have to do who the hell knows. But if you have a child that's in the school system, public, private, whatever, and you again have no choice, if every adult in the house needs to work, they can't work remotely, they have to be at work to make ends meet, what would you suggest as a little tiny thing that anybody can do without overloading the children who are already, again, away all day in school, and then they have hours of homework at the end? What do you do to maybe hybridize the experience a little bit more and keep a good a good tab on things that are happening and being a little bit more involved, to do whatever you can to add a little bit more sane and logic to the whole thing?
Well, I think that if you're going to have to say no to some things, right? Like maybe we don't busy every single night with a sport or an activity. We eat dinner together, eating dinner as a family, maybe cooking it together, cleaning up together, having some sort of conversation that isn't just, and I'm working on this with my 7-year-old right now. When someone asks you a question, you don't just say, or I don't know, or it was okay. Really prompting that, no, tell me more. I want to hear more, asking more questions about it, because that's such a standard answer, right? Oh, it was fine. How was your day? It was good. No, tell me about it. What did you learn? What did you experience? Did anything go wrong? Did anything go right? Really getting the conversation going between the child and the parent. And then even taking it into the evening, like maybe you have a game night once a week. And I was the person at one point that was like, that's so corny. That will never be me. We're not doing game nights. But now that I'm in it and I'm homeschooling, I'm like, this is really fun. Like when your child becomes old enough to actually understand the rules of a game, and you're like watching them making the connections of it, and talking about strategies and why you're doing this. A big thing Barbie was talking about, putting it into logical context for them. Like, hey, that if you put that card down, I could do this with my next card. So maybe you want to look ahead at what I'm going to do next, and kind of so you're talking about stuff, and even just conversation in the car rides. Like, it's so common for all of us to, oh, I'm going to put on that podcast that I didn't get to listen to last week. And the kids are looking at their phone or listening to music that they want to listen to in the back. Everybody's got something separate they're doing on a device. But kind of saying like, no, the car rides are now when we're going to chat. And when they're little, it's really fun because you can play games with it. Like, hey, let's find the letter A. Whoever finds an A first on a sign gets a point. And then, you run through the alphabet, or whoever finds the number 1, or, whoever sees a hawk gets 3 points, and, or a deer gets 2 points, so you're just playing these games all the time with your kids, and it's sparking conversation, because then, and Barbie mentioned this earlier, it's well, what next? Well, what if? And why would a deer be standing in that meadow? And what if that deer gets hit by a car? And what would happen then? And, so you're really going into making these connections with your kids. And I definitely don't do things right all the time, but I think it's also allowed me the opportunity to, when I do things wrong, like, get mad in a situation that I shouldn't have gotten mad in, for me to reflect on it and go back to them later that day or the next day and say, "Yeah, I'm really sorry I did that." Just like you sometimes have tantrums, moms and dads do too. And we're working on it too. And I'm sorry, I shouldn't have done that. And teaching them that it's okay to be wrong. It's okay to apologize. It's okay to say, I'm going to try harder next time. I think all of that is just opening the lines of communication between you and your kids. And there's nothing bad that can come from that.
True.
Okay. Okay. So, Barbie, what's one thing that you would add into the day to make the time a little bit more at home?
Well, for me, I did a lot with art. Like there was always art. I think I heard one of my kids say, "I'm bored" once, and I'm like, "Uh-oh, I got to change something." So there's always something. There's air dry clay. There's this, there's that. There's always something. My Christmas tree, I mean, you can imagine what it looks like because it was a bunch of boys that, I'm going to make pancakes. Or this is a sheep that got hit by a great white shark, whatever. But they would create these things and they were funny. And they were doing it with their hands. And that type of thing was very, I don't know. I like that kind of stuff. And the game night is important. Like all of those are important. The one thing though, is like, to me, if you're on the fence about homeschooling, I think you really need to it's harsh. Like there's no way that what I'm going to say is going to be taken easily, but it's harsh. It would be like, okay, the doctor says I need to give up drinking. I need to give up drinking. Well, the only way to do it is to just do it. And I know that that's brutal, but my view is you got one shot at raising this child correctly. And the books that are in the school systems, they're awful. The sexual innuendo that's rampant through the book, starting in first and second grade. You're like, what are we doing? What are we doing? So I would rather teach the reading than have it go there. And I've had people, like you said earlier, the kids in the 90s that were homeschooled were kind of weird. Yeah, I ran into that. Oh, your kids are going to be antisocial. I'm like, actually, they're going to be completely the opposite because they're not socializing with what I don't want them to socialize with. They're setting the goal. They're setting the pace. They're the influencers of their age group, and they set the example. And the only way you can get that is if you do it yourself. There is no system in existence today that's going to do it. You're going to find what you found for your daughter, a micro school. You're going to do what you do for your son, which is homeschool him, and you're going to do the best you can. It's not going to be perfect. You're going to have days, but that you're going to have days in a cubicle too.
Yep. Well, it's great. Well said. Well said. I thank you both so much for being on tonight. Now it is it's not back to school. It's school never ends. So that's the real thing here. And I just please let everybody know where to find you, what you're working on right now, your books. But like I said, both of your websites are in the description of the episode. But it's some parting shots, and we'll be on our way. Go ahead.
Well, thank you for having me on today, Frank. Yeah, I have a podcast, The Homeschool How To, where I interview homeschooling families. The premise originally was just, I don't even know if I should do this, so convince me or convince me not. And now 135 episodes later, I'm convinced. And, so I just learned how everybody's day-to-day looks. And I compiled an ebook out of what I learned off the first 120 episodes. So that's available on the website. And yeah, check out the podcast if you have any interest in listening to a bunch of homeschooling people talk about what their day looks like.
Yeah. And also a great Instagram you have there too. So there's that. You. Barbie, go ahead.
No, and by the way, I think what you're doing is fantastic because that's what I needed when I was starting. All right, so I wrote a book, Enough is Enough, and it's about exposing the education system after their failed attempt to label and drug my son. If you subscribe at barbierivera.com, you will get the first 6 chapters for free. And in, 14 days, it drops in Spanish. I have a Cuban award-winning actor and director who read the book and he's like, I want to translate it. And he did, and he's connected. He's famous in 19 different Latin American countries. and we're doing a book signing in November, and it's going to launch in about 2 weeks.
Fantastic. I hope everybody goes and check that out. You know, it is holiday season now. Give a book for Christmas. And thank you both, Barbie and Cheryl. You guys have been fantastic. Hope to talk to you again one day.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good one. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. Go and check them out. The links are all in the description of the episode. And we are going to take a really quick break. When we come back, going to take your calls. We're going to look at some other stuff we have over here. Going to go through some of our AOL memories. I want to do a little bit of nostalgia here tonight too. Unless there's some huge breaking news that I can go check out. Aside from the Yankees losing 2-1 because Aaron Boone should be out of a job like 5 seasons ago. Should be out of a job. You want to talk about AI teaching your children? AI runs X amount of Major League Baseball teams and everything else. There are no real managers. There are no there's nobody. There's very few people. There's very few people who can look at a bunch of guys or a classroom of kids, whatever. It could be a sports team, it could be a board of directors, whatever, and just kind of assess the people and throw the book out and just make an assessment. Nope, it's all analytics. All analytics. You have a pitcher throwing a gem, spinning a gem. Nobody can touch him. You're going into the 7th inning. Nobody can touch him. Nobody. But he's got 101 pitches. I'm just going to leave him in for one more because the analytics says after 100 pitches, things could get dangerous. Freaks. You know, we're losing our humanity. Losing it. There are tools, and then it gets to a point where they become a member of the family. They're essentially the dog, okay? The AI, the analytics, the blue statistics book. It becomes the family dog. That's what it is. Anyway, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Welcome to Intermission.
Intermission.
Back to school. Well, here goes nothing.
All right. Just a little bit of a break from then till now. I hope you guys are having a good one out there. Wanted to do this tonight because we're going to be going in. I think tomorrow night, I want to bring Ryan Gable on in the first half because I think I might be able to talk to him about that synchronicity question. It's one thing, you know, I want to get behind what the movie analysis of Snake Eyes is all about over the last week. I want to get deeper into what it all means because it's definitely not something has been, you know, in the planning phases since 1998. I want to know what stuff like that means because and not every number, but what is it? What is it? Is it like a fragment of DNA? You know, if it's you know how with the PCR tests during COVID. We started learning about how the PCR tests were invented and what they were really supposed to serve and what they picked up on and how you can actually maximize and make them more and more sensitive by how many times that you cycle through them and whatnot. You actually just make it bigger and bigger to the point where almost anything can trigger a false positive. And I mean, from there, if you have the media that is willing to paint one picture or another, you just, have at it. But what they were saying, what we learned is that the PCR tests, they could just also be triggered positive by picking up fragments of viruses long since gone, colds that were conquered a long time ago, things that were just like little pieces of something that was once a thing. And I wonder, when it comes to things like predictive programming, especially the types of predictive programming that we see with the Snake Eyes movie and recent events, like, what does that mean? Because it's one thing to you can put your mind behind The Simpsons and 9/11 and those types of things, that you can say, well, over the course of years, there was a plan in place that we were building our way towards something, and there was going to be a pivotal Pearl Harbor event that really changes turns the page on one era of history in the United States into another era, and we go headfirst into a new time. But it's another thing altogether when you talk about the targeting of a child that was only 5 years old and unknown to everybody when the movie came out. It works in reverse at that point. All right. Anyhow, hopefully we'll be able to do that tomorrow in the first half. My second half guest tomorrow has bailed on me, so I will find something else to do there as well. And then we'll be off into Thursday. Thursday should be great because we're going to be talking about lost civilizations, ancient history, all that stuff. And that'll be with Nerdrotic, Gary from Nerdrotic. So that'll be a pretty interesting debut right before I head off into the mountains. All right, 914-200-0269. And just to remind you all that all your super chats that I'm about to read right now are going into the pot for next week's grand giveaway of this gigantic cozy basket. Over $200 worth of stuff, mugs and coffee and socks and blankets and Verso and books, and there's just so many things in here. Keto brains I'm throwing in. There's just a lot. I'm happy for whoever wins this, and all you gotta do is send a super chat anytime from now until probably next Thursday, and we'll be blessing somebody in a big way. All right, let's see what people are saying. Stowstube says, great show. Thank you, Frank. Well, thank you for being out there, my friend. Rev says, ASL, RIP, AOL dial-up. I know. That's the first time most people out there got ASL in those chat rooms. ASL, wanna cyber? Remember that? ASL, wanna cyber? So silly. And then Jay Brits. Thank you so much, Jay Brits. Okay. Let's see what else we got going on. A cozy little crew over there on Rumble. Everybody's chilling. We're all caught up. Good to know. Good to know. On Pilled.net, Zoso Dude says, I don't think that even Willie Fixit could get a word in if he was speaking to Jamal Bowman. Oh, no. Jamal Bowman. It's like talking to a lawnmower. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? You're going to try to talk over a lawnmower? Stickman Freediver says, happy fall, y'all. Yes, indeed. Happy fall to you as well. Thank you so much for being here. Kate Pratt says, hi, Frank. It's Kate from Oregon. It was so cool to meet you earlier this month. Jared and I have been together 3 years now, and we still come home and talk about your show. Please tell Jared thank you for being the most amazing, supportive husband I could ask for. Well, all the best to you guys. You got a good thing going on there, and it was great meeting you and hanging out with you. And I cannot believe that we are but a few days away from 1 month. 1 month. Just nuts. We are a few days away from 1 month since the Jamboree. And some great things. But you know what? Weeks and months are nothing compared to the many years. Gizmo's mom says, great guest tonight. Such an important topic. It is. compared to the many years that we can track through so many things. And we'll do that just in a second with AOL. But first, you know what I want to do? I want to say thank you to my good friend Jane Barlow out there. Jane, we interviewed Jane on the show. She is a wonderful friend. And of course, she's got the book, the Be Your Own Shaman book, that field guide to how to spot and even cultivate these medicinal herbs right there in the wild in your backyard, and how to turn them into really pivotal and incredible parts of your medicine cabinet at home. That's where we are right now. I want to thank her so much. That is at Barlow Herbal, and I'll tell you why. BarlowHerbal.com, because 2 of her products I use every day with Aurora before she goes away to a few hours at her enrichment class of a couple of days a week. And here it is. Number 1 is the LDM 100. That's in the morning. I can't even tell you some of the things that this thing has done before I start walking on the lines of making claims. But keep this around for cold and flu season, strep throat, whatever the hell it is, the LDM 100. And then when she gets home, she gets a little shot of the elderberry with lemon balm. And even we take that all day long. Well, not all day long, but at least once a day. It's so good. So I just want to thank Jane. She sent so much stuff to the Jamboree, and she wasn't even a formal sponsor of it. And so much stuff that got to people. It was in all the gift bags and stuff. I just wanted to thank her. She does fantastic work, and she treats people so well. Okay, so let me see. Stickman says, sweet basket, count me in. You got it. You're in there. Shotzi says, interesting guest this evening. I'm glad you liked it. Call in 914-200-0269. And here we go. We're going over to AOL with a final screech. AOL's dial-up service goes silent. One of the earliest consumer internet portals, AOL's dial-up option was once the most common way for people to access the early web. Take a listen to this, because I thought that this is something also is really, really cool that I grabbed to kind of compliment this. So here's the...
Hi, I'm Elwood.
No, that's Elwood. We'll get to him in just a second. Listen. Remember that? All just to have somebody screw you up by picking up the phone. And all the stuff that came out, the splitters, all the splitters, you're in.
You've got mail.
You're in, man, at that point. And you hear you got mail, say, please let it be from that one person I've been waiting for. Let it be something I've been waiting for. You get so excited. But you think about everything that has happened. We had these splitters. The first thing that was like, hey, there's no more interruption of the phone, which I think at first everybody was happy about. And then we were all kind of upset that you couldn't kick somebody off the internet when you wanted to. My mother loved kicking us off the internet. I loved kicking my brother off the internet. He tried kicking me off the internet by taking the phone off the hook, which that would be the most dire of consequences for him if he did that to me. But I did it to him all the time. And but then things just started getting a little bit easier. A lot easier, actually. But before we start taking your calls, I got a little something over here with Elwood Edwards, and he's the guy that actually voiced the You Got Mail. And I know he died a couple of years ago, I think, or maybe just within the last year. But take a listen to this. I think it's a really cool short video.
Hi, I'm Elwood Edwards, and 22 years ago, I recorded a very well-known catchphrase for AOL.
Hey, Elwood, I just got an email.
You've got mail. Welcome. It all started when my wife Karen, who worked for Quantum Computer Services, overheard Steve Case talking about adding a voice to the then upcoming AOL software in 1989. So she volunteered my voice, and on a cassette deck in my living room, I recorded the phrases that you've come to know, such as the...
Hey, Elwood, look what we got.
We've got emails.
You've got mail. So I went on to record, welcome, you've got mail. Files done, goodbye. And what started off as a test has continued to this day.
I forgot about files done. I totally forgot about files done.
So that's the story behind the catchphrase, which, well, I have a certain amount of trouble trying to escape.
Hey, Elwood.
Let me guess, you have new email?
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Wow. And you know how bad it is right now? The AOL official YouTube count only has 31,000 subscribers. Yeah, it only has 31,000 subscribers. So how it is just all changed. Here's a little bit of a timeline for you. And this is all very, very nostalgic for especially people around my age. You know, you go and you get home from school. And this was where, you know, some people just really, we loved chatting with each other, but we were still totally, I'll meet you here and there. There's no connectivity for any of our gaming systems yet. So we would only go on AOL for the most part late at night after we've all hung out. So we would hang out wherever the hell it was, and then we would all meet in like one chat room or another, or especially once AOL services like AIM became free, that is when we started, you know, you just get together and you AIM with the instant messenger. And that can go on into the early morning hours, especially during the summertime. But that was always something that happened it was like the nightcap. We all had our curfews. We get back home 8, 9, 10 o'clock, depending on what the hell was going on. And then this was going on. That's what happened over here. A lot of fun. Quantum Computer Service launches its first instant messaging service in 1989. AOL goes public in 92. 93, AOL starts mailing compact discs home to help to get online. You guys remember that? You would get a new AOL version every couple of months. AOL 3.0, 4.0. 5, 6, I don't even know what the hell happened. After a while, he just starts updating online. You don't need the CDs anymore. But that was so smart and so revolutionary. I remember the 2001 merger with Time Warner for AOL Time Warner. And I don't know. Some of you still have AOL accounts. Lauren still has an AOL email. But it's been since college, I think, since I had an instant messenger. I wonder when the last time I signed into AIM was. I wonder when the last time I signed into AIM. You know all those nostalgia videos that are always like, you never know when the last time that everybody was at home was, or the last time you and all your neighborhood friends when you were a kid. There was a last day, and you didn't know it was going to be the last day, that you and all the kids in the neighborhood got together and played Army together, and that would be the last time of the old days. I wonder when my last time on AIM was. It's crazy. My screen name was Ex Anno Domini X. Everybody had X's. I had an XX Shrine. I don't know what the hell the shrine thing was all about. And then there was all the RPG chat rooms on AOL back in the day. Back in the late 90s. Those are some of my favorite AOL memories. The RPG chat rooms in the arts and entertainment section. We'll talk about that in a second. 860, you're on the air. Go ahead.
AOL memories.
Hello?
The RPG. Hey, pal, how you doing?
All right. Who's this?
This is Willie.
Oh, what's going on, Willie? Go ahead.
How you doing, pal?
All right.
Yeah, crazy the narrative shift to PTSD, every veteran shooting everybody up, and what the hell's that about? But how you doing, the warrior thing today? I don't know. I'm pretty happy with today. Got a lot of stuff done. about yourself. How you doing?
Are you talking to me or somebody else?
No, I'm talking to you because, I mean, I know we're talking homeschool and shit like that, and I know that's important, but I'm just, just trying to be mellow.
You trying to be mellow? Okay, well, there was a mellow.
you know what I mean? Because, I don't know, sometimes I come off like fucking Crazy John from the fucking woods of Connecticut.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was kind of a mellow day for me too. I knew that Cheryl and Barbie were coming on. I knew that it would be a subdued but important topic. But the second half is, kind of open for whatever. So that's why the lines are open. We're making good time.
Yeah. I'm did just a short rip around and seeing people around, and everybody is still pretty much, pissed about like I said, when I don't know. I think I'm getting addicted to the internet too much, whatever. However, I finally, took a break.
I am.
Did the grass, did the everything.
No, I am. It's not necessarily internet. It is. I find myself, and I guess I can say that it has something to do with it's work related too. It's not like it's all work related, no doubt, but once I'm on a roll, I just don't know when to stop sometimes. And what I find myself doing some nights, and it actually causes physical distress, is I go almost unconscious. There's sometimes I go unconscious and I am going from one notification to the next to try to, and I'm sending myself emails. And I got to stop. It's not that I'm not being productive. It's just that there's got to be times to stop.
I'm old school, right? I only use my phone for just calling people and leaving messages.
Yeah.
But I use my PC, my home computer, to do my social media shit. So I'm like old school for that way, right way around, right, whatever. And it was nice to take a break for whatever, how many hours. I've been fucked up with, busted body parts and this and that, but I got the old truck off the lift and I got the lift opened up. So I want to say, anybody needs a brake job, come over to, Willie's house, Northwest Connecticut, and I'll treat you right.
Okay, Willie, thanks for the call.
Okay. Shameless plug there.
That's it.
And I don't know, you called my name out, or Zozo did or something, so that's why I had to call in.
Well, I'm glad.
But yeah, homeschool is the way to go. And boy, have you seen, what's her name? Our buddy there, constitutional lawyer there, Chris Ann Hall. She's been on a tear lately.
No, so cool. I haven't seen it, but I'll check it out. Thank you, Willie. If you want to go, you want to get an oil change, just find Willie. He's in the northwest part of Connecticut. Just keep your eyes out. Let's go and take a call. Yeah, no, there's a question for you because you want to talk about AOL going away. What's your memory? Here's a question. Do you know you're addicted? You got some kind of a hook in you, and there's got to be more decompression time. That you get roped in and you're just doing too much on the devices. It's too much for me. I know I'm doing too much on the devices because I want to get just a little bit of a head start for the next day, and then all of a sudden I realize it's 12:45 in the morning and I'm in the living room and just kind of like doing a thing over here, running back into the other room, writing myself an email, organizing something, and I start feeling like there's an elastic band that's snapping behind my eyeballs. Like, no, this sucks. 704, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank, it's Dave. I don't know if you still have my number thing. You tell everybody that you just get the numbers popped up now.
No, I don't get any. I don't get anybody's name anymore. I'm sorry, but it's good to hear from you. Go ahead.
Hey, man. I was calling to talk about the AI and the homeschool, and I thought that was very interesting. The whole thing. Now mine's grown and gone and lives in Spain now. So, and you'll be there one day. So don't blink, Dad. one day she's little, the next day you blink your eyes, she's graduating high school, you blink your eyes, she's graduating college, and then they're grown and gone, and you're like, where'd all the time go?
Yep.
But I want to talk about the AI. There's something that, I fought technology all the way down the line, and I told you this before one time when I called in, that Emerson and Thoreau were talking during the first industrial revolution about how this is bad for humanity. And that was the invention of like the steam engine and stuff. So there's something computers will never have, and that's the humanness. You said we're losing our humanity. And I just wanted to give you a small story to exemplify. When my daughter was about to turn 7, she went to daycare, and no, she was in school, and she would go to daycare after, and we would pick her up. And one day I went to pick her up from daycare after school, and I said, honey, I said, your 7th birthday is about to come up. And she said, yeah, I know. I'm just so excited. And I said, well, anything in particular you might want for your birthday? I was fishing for, what should I get her for her birthday? And she said, well, Daddy, I'd like a book on how to speak Russian. And I was floored. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm expecting some girly little answer, like I want a Barbie car or a new Barbie dream house or a new baby doll or a tea set or something girly. And it just threw me back, that she would say, I want a book on how to speak Russian. And so we were quiet for a second, and we're riding down the road, and finally I said, well, honey, that's pretty neat. I said, why would you want a book on how to, you mind telling Daddy why you'd want a book on how to speak Russian? And she said, well, Daddy, she said, I got these two new friends that just moved here from Russia, and they don't speak English very well. And I was thinking, well, if I could learn how to speak Russian, well, we could communicate a lot better, and we could be a lot better friends than we are. And I was floored. I was floored that this is coming from a almost 7-year-old child. And I realized right then that this child is probably going to be gifted in languages. Now, I made it happen. I went to Barnes & Noble, and I found a book with the Russian language in it. It had these little stickers, that their alphabet is completely different than ours. I don't know if you've ever seen the Russian alphabet.
Yes.
It only has like 25 or 26 like letters, and they don't look anything like it. It's completely different. It's sort of like Chinese. And so she gets these little stickers, and I actually, out of my old vehicle, she had stuck one of them on the visor mirror that says mirror. And when I got rid of that truck, I took that visor out, and I still have it to this day with that little Russian sticker on it. And she stuck little stickers all around the house, and she started trying to learn how to read the Russian. Later on in life, by junior high school, she had joined the Spanish club. She was in the French club all through high school, the Japanese club, the German club, and she loved German the most. And so she really focused on German, and she went on their high school trip with her German class. She got to go to Germany. And then in college, she double majored, and she majored in economics and minored in German. And the child learned to, she knows how to speak French.
So essentially everything that you saw in this 6-year-old turning 7-year-old, you just you fed that curiosity in languages, and it turned out being that was her strong suit. That's what she loved doing.
And that's something that a computer could never recognize.
Absolutely. I see what you're saying.
The humanness of it all. That's why we need humans teaching. And by the way, I think what you're doing with Aurora, I don't know if it's like a mother's morning out. That's what I'm older than you, Frank. I'm like 57.
Okay.
And when my daughter was little, we realized she has to be socialized before she starts school, so she'll be able to get along with other little kids, You don't want them fighting over toys and things in school. So we started her when she was like 3.5 or 4 at a local church. This thing was called a mother's morning out, where our mom could drop her off for about 4 hours, 3 or 4 hours, couple times a week, and he was with other children her age, and she got to be socialized.
Well,
so
yeah, essentially what it is, and thank you for the call. Essentially what it is about 4 days a week. There's for about, I don't know, for a few hours, 4 mornings a week for a few hours. There's about a classroom of about 7 or 8 kids from around 3.5 years old to the oldest is 6th. Aurora's right there in the middle. And it just follows this Montessori prescription. And of course, they have to be called, it's an enrichment program. It's not school because whatever. Just like if you're a member of MediShare, it's not insurance. It's a cost sharing, whatever the hell it is. So that's what it is. But that, wonderful story and really interesting. I mean, you guys have a front row seat to seeing really what those of you who are parents and mentors and guardians of all stripe, if you are helping raise a child or doing it all by yourself, you have a front row seat of watching a brand new human life develop their own interests, their own strong suits, all of that stuff, and nurturing it and facilitating its exploration. And I think that's pretty much in line with what Barbie and Cheryl and anybody else in their position really talk about. It's not necessarily, hey, here's the program you need to do. It's also just following the development of the child, just following that and not trying to steer the ship too much. You got to get reading, writing, arithmetic, logic in there, but it's just looking for the cues that they're ready and knowing how to lay down the foundations without making it too arduous. So, okay, let's take another call. 413, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Frank. Grady from Massachusetts.
Grady, how are you? Go ahead.
I'm good. 2 things. One, excellent show tonight. I wish I'd been able to homeschool my own kid, but that's who knew back then.
Listen, everything's relative at this point.
Right. But I have the dinner tonight because back when you had Sal with Butcher and Matt from Elevate.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about it since. I did pork chops, boneless pork chops, 100 degrees center. I wasn't comfortable just, 89 or whatever. 100 degrees center, extremely rare. Nice crust on the outside. Amazing. You guys are talking about raw meat. Absolutely amazing.
I've never tried it at all. First of all, I haven't had pork in a long time.
I grew up with pork cooked to death. I've learned to eat it medium rare, but rare, 100 degrees. It's amazing. So, you may a convert.
Well, good. Give us a little bit more on that, because when it comes to raw things, raw chicken, raw pork, raw whatever the hell it is, it's one of those things that I'm always very interested in how everybody else is handling it and all of these public experiments going on. But it seems like everybody's kind of surviving, so that's good.
Yeah, well, I can't see raw chicken. The idea just maybe very, very thin slice and lemon juice like they do with fish. But I learned to like sushi, which I didn't think I would. I was amazed I liked raw eel. I was actually astounded. I've always liked my hamburgers very rare. And like I said, I learned to do pork medium rare.
Okay.
Still pink. I learned to do chicken to 140, 145, especially chicken thighs.
All right.
Very juicy, but it's still cooked through. It's the first time I actually tried something that was almost a raw meat.
Well,
besides the hamburger. And
you're still here.
It was a mistake. I'm still here, and it was tender, it was juicy. Not steak juicy, pork stuff, not like that. But it was juicy, it was tender. The taste was just nice on the outside, nice rare, raw in the middle. I really was surprised how much I liked it.
Yes. I'm thanking. Well, listen, well, keep me up to date, because I'm not, like I said, I'm not doing a lot of experimenting right now with all that stuff. But I like to hear everybody else that is. And thanks for the call, Grady.
Thank you, Frank.
There you go. So right now, Grady is pork, chicken, whatever the hell it is, taking his foot off of the gas a little bit more. Wants to get the essence. The essence of the of the meat. Oh dear Lord. All right, let's see. A couple more. Actually, let me see. I think that's let me go check our super chats real quick. Got that. Good. Oh, here's one from Sarah Blazik. Says, love tonight's episode. My kids are almost done with school, or I would be homeschooling. I'm proactively encouraging them to homeschool their kids. And I think I'll have them watch this episode. You know what? Like the ladies tonight said, by the time your children have children or Gen Alpha is coming on up, like everything else, like our hopes for what we think is going to be available with Social Security, it just might not be one of those things that it's becoming less and less controversial right now. It's becoming far less controversial. Somebody doesn't want to go to college. They don't have a direct path to a profession that is they're burning to achieve. That a trade school or something else like that wouldn't take care of a lot quicker and get you working a lot quicker. Then it's just like, what are you going to do? It's going to be a lot less controversial as time goes on. So your kids, your grandchildren, they might all just be, they might be doing this stuff. And I hope so. It's a good thing when you see New Jersey trying to say, no, the homeschoolers have got to teach about the gender and diddling. We have to, the homeschoolers need to be taught about diddling themselves. They have to. You can't run away from us. Freaks. Absolute freaks. They are just so touchy-feely and freakish. Get the hell away from all of us, you assholes. All right. That's it for tonight. A little bit early, but I'm going to be starting extra innings a bit sooner than expected, and then we are going to go off into tomorrow night. That's all I have for you right now, and I appreciate your time. I think you guys, I've had a good time with you, and tomorrow we're going to go into some deeper stuff up front, and I'll find something nice to round it all out in the second half, and I hope you're here to hang out with me. Also, there's something new going on right now on YouTube that I just want to let you know about. There's a hype button. This was brought to my attention by a friend of the show today, that if you're watching this after the fact on mobile, there's a hype button. If you hit that, if you hype this show up, I got to read into what the hell it is. Apparently, this is a feature that was being designed for smaller end channels like ours. It's like 1,000 to 500,000, because those are smaller channels these days. We're talking about channels out there that have tens of millions of subscribers and everything else. But apparently, if you hype as well as like and comment on these episodes, it could really do wonders in making it more visible. I don't know if it's just to the people who subscribe to the channel, which I would just be happy with that, or if it makes it more suggestible elsewhere. Anyway, please like, subscribe, comment, and hype it if you're watching on YouTube. If it's on Rumble or anywhere else, liking, red pilling, commenting, sharing, send it to all your friends and family. I need your help. And I just want to see how this new, all these new toys shake out in our favor, if at all. Have a great night. Talk to you soon. It happened again. Yeah, like everything else.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
That's right. Take it to the bank, everybody. Thank you, Stickman, Shotzi, Stostu, Revolution, Jay Britz. You guys are fantastic. My live viewing audience, it's been wonderful to have you here. Thank you to Sarah Blazik and to Gizmo's mom over on Rumble. Oh, well, your sponsorship is crucial for 2026. All of our production goals. Please go to quitefrankly.tv/sponsor and jump in on a small monthly sponsorship. A little goes a long way, especially over there on Subscribestar. I'd like to hit that next. We're 60% of the way to our next goal I'm just going to take it bite by bite. Bite by bite. And you see what happens and the places we go and the people we talk to. Thank you for everything, guys. Talk to you soon.
Goodbye.
All right, that's it. Thanks, everybody.